All right. So, if you're going to watch this later, then you'll know I wrote down the title. I hope the title went out because I didn't know if it would fall off, and setting boundaries with a narcissist. So both are important, and I've noticed that they sort of go hand in hand. So my name is Dr. Cheryl Meier. I am at my office. That And this is a topic that I really, really enjoy, and I've been reading and studying. And I don't enjoy talking about the narcissist or interacting with. Hey, thank you, interacting with narcissists, but I don't want this to happen for anyone else ever again. And so I'm going to teach on it because I'm so passionate about this awesome studying that's been taking place. It's kind of like, okay, so they say, I think it might be a Sufi saying or something, but or maybe just a Zen saying, or maybe just a proverb, is when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And so I guess I was ready. Thank God. And oh, well, and we can thank God because I look at it too there's some story about some person who pretended to be this guru or something in New York. And he just wanted to do it to make a bunch of money. But as he started presenting himself as that, all of these answers to life came through for him, because when you yield yourself to a certain role, then actually the answers can come to you because you're concentrating on understanding things in that capacity. So, you can use things for good or for evil. But what I was listening to is this teacher that I like recommended this Zen teacher called Charlotte Beck. And so I am a Christian, but I welcome all people of all faith practices. And and I don't think you ought to identify yourself in an egotistic form. You can identify yourself. I can say I'm Native American or whatever. But I don't want to build an identity out of that, because then it's like I'm in this special class and you're not, but there are certain things that I might have learned and from my lineage or from the DNA that's in me, or who knows. And so it's all about um, not forming an ego identity from it. But that's what you guys are here for, I'm sure, because none of us wants to have a false self. Why would we want to be in our false self? When you're in a false self, you always have to prop that false self up. And is there a lot of pressure to keep propping that false self up? Because we're not created to do that. Like, none of us are created to do that. So welcome, you all. I can't see any comments. If you'd like to comment, feel free, amongst each other, or if I see something, then I'll do my best to bring it in. If it Sometimes they dump in like 100 people at once, so we'll see what happens, what time it is in different time zones. This is around lunchtime where I am. I'm on the West Coast, so I usually come on later on in the day, but we'll see. So, all right. So I got the Audible for this book called Everyday Zen. And this woman that's been studying it for, it sounds like over 30, 40 years, this woman, Charlotte Beck, was talking about how to live Zen. And, she's also describing how to get rid of your false self. One way I've described the false self in other videos that can help us is I used to be married to a video game director or video game creator. I mean, creator, I'll just say creator. And we would play this video game when it was still in beta. It went like worldwide, so I could play with my cousins in a different state, different state in the US, not state of being. Anyway, all right. So those are just jokes about states of consciousness. So what you could do in this video game is you build up this character, you level that character up, you can get lots of money, you can go to the auction house, you can sell stuff, you acquire items, you have all these bags where you carry all your items, you know, you can develop a reputation in game for like, that person is this level, and outside of the game for that too. And so you can spend all this time building up that character, and you can get so caught up in that you start thinking in a way, you know, that you are that character. Well, this is what people do in this matrix that we call life, is people learn, and don't blame yourself, and don't, that none of this is ever about shaming ourselves. We learn in early childhood from rejection from our parents, and their own rejection that they internalize, even if our parents were really loving to us. If they don't know what it's like to be loved and they feel rejected inside, we pick up on their rejection. And so sometimes we learn from them subconsciously, we just pick it up from them, how to start building up this false self, because they don't unconsciously, they don't welcome their own authentic real self. And so welcome you all. They don't welcome your real self. At first they do when you're a baby sometimes, because it doesn't threaten their false self. But once you start developing a personality around age 6 or 7 or even 2, you're going through these terrible 2s, and you're like, they call it the terrible 2s, but it's just a power struggle can happen. And if our parents aren't really grounded in their own being, then they can start feeling threatened by the 2-year-old, instead of teaching the 2-year-old how to regulate. You know, the 2-year-old's learning how to be powerful in this world, be of their own agency. And so it's important to set boundaries with the 2-year-old, and also let them grow in their sense of power in a good way. But so this false self can develop in us and grow. And as we grow this counterfeit version of ourselves, if you will, that seems like our real self, we also can learn how to start trying to please other people, to try to ensure that they like us. Now, again, look, and so welcome all you here, you and the people that come later, you know, is that I'm doing this live. I am a psychologist. I'm at my office. My name's Dr. Cheryl Meier. Just, you know, I'm anyway, so when you have a parent here and you're the child, it's like, you know, they teach us my way or the highway. You're this little child, and you want to try to please your parents because their rejection feels like humiliating. It feels like really heavy when you're a child. So we learn, all of us learn how to do these pleasing behaviors to try to get them to turn around and not reject us. But as we learn how to go into that, sometimes we learn how to abandon our own self. We're not rewarded for being our authentic self. Now, it's awesome. Not that part's not awesome, but this woman, now Rebecca Nottingham, she wrote a book called The Work, and I've read it before. I had like all of it underlined, and then like I threw the book away at one point because I was just like, I don't know if this is, you know, anyway, it's called Esotericism and Christian Psychology. And so I've just gone through different stages sometimes of like, I want to get everything out that's not Christian, you know, and then I'm glad it came back in my life, because like see, there's she talks about, that's what I was going to say, is she describes something really well by a guy named, she's quoting a guy named Dr. Maurice Nicoll. Now, I did a whole playlist on Dr. Maurice Nicoll. He was from like the 30s or so, and he studied this so deep. The stuff that has been brought to me is just so deep that I'm really excited when it gets to other people. That to me it means you're ready to go really deep, even though this is just a live on a Friday afternoon. Anyway, so Dr. Nicole says that he compares our personality being developed like an egg. Okay, so let's understand this framework again. I did a whole series called The New Man, and so I was reading through one of his books. Hey, welcome. So he says it's kind of like an egg. Okay, so imagine if a little baby chicken is born out of an egg. And so there's the yolk in the middle, and then there's a white on the outside of the egg. And the chick has to eat the white in order to come out of that egg and be born. And we're not meant to be like an egg all the time and just dress up this egg of ourselves. We're meant to actually be born. So he uses that just as a picture, and it's not an exact picture, but that you're made in the image and likeness of God, of the creator, of this loving God, and we're meant to create. We're meant to we have gifts in us that are meant to be activated. We have amazing things that are meant to be activated in us to give back to the world, because we're all a part of this. So every part matters. And that's not to inflate ourselves or turn ourselves into some false self and a narcissist. But so he says, imagine like a baby. It's just being and, you know, in the present moment and just full of life. You're full of life as you're a baby, and you're in your essence self. And this personality starts forming around you. And so the way he describes it, and I really like this description, is that in order for your real essence to come back out in this world, you have to be like the baby chick and let the personality die. Let it die to yourself. Jesus says you must pick up your cross every day and die. Now I wear this around my neck to remind me. Now I wear jewelry to remind myself all the time, but like, here's this heart. We came from God and we go back to God. So we're made in the image of this love. This one is like drop down out of your head, stay in your heart. It says love on it. This one does, because a different one I had fell off the chain. Now this I don't care about showing my jewelry. I'm showing it because for me, I want constant reminders. And if I had my video right now, but I'm on my camera, I could show you. Hey, welcome. I'm doing good. Nice to see you. I'm glad you're here. So this was an ancient esoteric symbol I heard before Jesus even took it. And I mean, before King David, if King David did. And so look at it, has two arrows. One is we're coming down here like this, out of love, to experience this earth. And as we learn how to die to our false self and our egotism, we go back up. All right. And so there's two arrows. One's going down here because we came here for a reason. And the other is going back up after you learn how to die to your false self. Now, oh, good. Go ahead. Listen while you're cooking. I'm so welcome here. And I already told Tiffany, she's an amazing singer. This woman here, Kindred, just wrote down a comment for one of my friends that's so gifted musically, like 1,000 times my gifts, but we don't compare with other people. She just like knows how to play the guitar well and has had all these singing like her whole life. And I just started, but I also studied psychology for over 20 years. And so we all have our gifts, and it's not to compare with another person, but I was so glad. She gave me the little tear eyes. Yeah, she gave me the tear eyes back. She already texted me back because I love her so much. But anyway, okay, so you keep cooking. I'll keep making our recipe here because I don't cook well either. I mean, I can do, but I like baking sometimes. But I love this. I love chemistry, and I loved like I was in honors chemistry. That was my one honors class because I love understanding how this works. Now, we can be reminded that we're not going to fix all these problems with just our mind. Our mind is useful, but it's meant to be the servant of what I'm talking about is, I mean, like the servant of the creator, let's say. It's not meant to be our master. It's just kind of like if I played the violin's not meant to direct my life, but you can play beautiful songs with the violin. So, and so back to, you're a human being. All right, so how can we learn how to just be in our being self, like a baby is, right? Like when you take a deep breath and let go of everything, and you ask yourself, who am I outside of my age, outside of my skin color, outside of my past experience, outside of what I think I'm going to accomplish in the future, outside of my bags in the game. Like I was talking about a game earlier, a video game, and a video game character. Who am I in my being self? Now, it helps when we get all regulated again and we are in our being self. And so this woman, I'll go back to her, Charlotte Jacobek. I was just listening to her Audible, and she was talking about how she read in some New York magazine about, I know you're an old soul, for sure you are. But in maybe a lot of us are, okay, that's how I always would treat my kids. But and so how she was saying, she was reading about this fashion, designer, and this fashion designer said elegance is about refusal. And now let me bring this back to your personality. Is we needed this personality to develop because it helps us navigate, it helps us walk through this world, because everyone has a personality. And but if you start, it's just like if it was a staff, if I started leaning on my personality and depending on that to give me my worth, it's all going to fall apart, because it's not your real self. It's a personality that you developed in order to navigate and get through childhood. And so you might have learned how to be a big pleaser. You might have internalized a lot of core beliefs, like I'm not good enough, I'm not enough. I wrote some of the things she wrote down. You learn how to try to be nice or to try to earn your worth. Now this works really well for the narcissist, and this is why I put both in the title. I put letting go of our own false self and setting boundaries with a narcissist. Because why do we go to a narcissist? Like, a narcissist is usually a very charismatic person, and they love our sincere, we're going to put ourselves in the non-narcissist category, but not to shame them or anything, but because anyway, oh, right. Well, you keep setting boundaries. This person here said, I get bullied a lot online for setting boundaries. Keep setting boundaries, because it's going to make you stronger in this world. And narcissists do not like boundaries. One of my friends, this woman, Christy Jessie, I consider her a friend. She's on this platform and other platforms too, but she says it like this. She says demons don't like boundaries. So you can tell, when someone is a sincere person, none of us in our flesh, we don't like boundaries. If someone says, I'm just going to keep giving you money to do whatever you want, like, of course, we're like, yeah, that sounds really good. But, and so, but especially when you set boundaries with the narcissist, so they like sincere people, and they call it narcissistic supply, will come over and try to feed off of you, trying to please them all the time. Because, and I sometimes say with my clients here is that yeah, well, you get to create your own channel here. So so uh is as 1 second, I was thinking, hold on. um I'll get, it'll come right back. where I was. I'll do my best to concentrate on what we're talking about too, so my mind's not distracted. But I love y'all, and I'm glad you're here too. And I love answering questions that are coming up during this too. Um, all right, so you develop these. What was I saying about the narcissist? You, I can't rewind right now and go look at what I was saying, but you don't have to. Oh, okay, so we become their food. Yeah, we become their narcissistic supply, and they like that coming. Oh yeah, that's what I was saying in here. Sometimes I would compare it to if you kept getting your spouse. I worked at a rehab for a year, a 12 pack of beer all the time, and they're well, sometimes people would be trying to get sober, and their spouses, whether it's the wife or the husband in the situation, would be so used to their chaos that they would go bring beer back into the house and try to sabotage the sobriety. Because when someone actually gets sober, let's say you start letting go of your false self, when you start getting sober and like, I don't have to prop up this false self anymore. Thank God I don't have to be a pleaser. That's not my real identity. I don't have to do that. What happens is you become a mirror of authenticity. And sometimes people are like, wow, I always wanted that authenticity in my life. And sometimes they're like, I do not like that mirror. That you're holding yourself accountable for things. You're getting sober. You're changing how you operate. You're setting boundaries with me. You're not bringing me that 12 pack of beer that I liked. Yeah, I understand that. Okay, so the more you learn how to move out of your counterfeit self, like a counterfeit $100 bill looks just like the real thing. But when you hold it up to the light, you see there is a real ribbon in the real one, unless they try to counterfeit that. And so when you hold it up to the light, I think St. Paul is the one that says that, and John says it as well. If you want to understand this scripturally, that the light exposes the darkness, and the darkness does not like the light because it doesn't understand it. It doesn't want to come into the light, and we all act like we want to, like, but and some part of our soul actually does want to, because we're created out of that stuff. We're created out of this radiant light. If God is light, God is love. We're created out of that. We're created in the image and likeness of God. And so some part of us really does want to come into the light and know our real identity. So what I planned to do was share one of her methods, one of Charlotte Jacobac's methods that she was talking about. So you can read hers. This is kind of like my own take on it. Yeah. And my own take on it, and sort of like a review of this awesome book that I've been listening. I thought it was her book, but I'm listening. It's actually practices about being Zen, which is just coming back to this centered place. Now, there's some stuff missing, but we'll go into that. But this really cool equation. All right. So she was talking about, I'm just so excited about this equation, because that's what I was going to say. If I could show you this video, is I got to go roller skating this morning, and her equation. So she talks about Einstein just saying, he came up with this equation, E equals mc squared. All right. Energy equals matter and whatever. But anyway, what Einstein came up with the way to describe it, but the actual pattern was already existent. He's just describing in a really beautiful way, let's say. Yeah. Okay. So he's describing this formula. Well, her formula was like, you only need to know this formula. And it was like 0, come back to 0 equals a life of freedom and compassion. All right. So and so where I was just roller skating is like, because I kept concentrating on the 0, I was like, there's 2 zeros in neon lights on the walls. And then as you're circling around, there's all these zeros. It's circles, but it's just like there's 0 everywhere. But if you come bring this back to, I've been reading this book by St. John of the Cross from the 1500s. This book that I have is from the 1200s, and I really love her, but it's been recently translated, like in the 1950s, so I can't read this one out loud for us, but I can read St. John of the Cross, The Ascent of Mount Carmel. He has this whole spiritual map where he says nada, 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 not by this, not by that, not by, you can't get back into this divine union, this union with the Creator, until you let go of this and let go of that. It's not by this heightened sense of your spiritual self. It's not by this. It's not by these other things. You got to get back to nada, 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 which is zero. All right. So the whole book, The Ascent of Mount Carmel and The Living Flame of Love by him, of these books by this Carmelite monk who learned how to be austere. I'll bring back in the elegance. Charlotte Jacobach was talking about this fashion designer who said elegance is really about refusal. It's like I have an office mate. She's in the other office today, but usually she's in here, and she decorated a lot of this, and I like my own preference is a little less stuff, but I love, she did a great job, and we're sharing a space right now after COVID, because some people like went online, and so people had more time in the office open. So I'm so glad to share the space with her. But and so elegance, she was saying, is like, look how there's spaces in between, let's say these vases or the stuff on the shelf, is a refusal of stuff. And she called that austerity. So learning how to be more austere. And an austere life is when you fast from things. You're you might feel insecure in the moment because you're not going to go try to please people like you learned how to please your parents. I'm not going to choose to do that right now. And it feels so awkward. It feels unfamiliar because this is the familiar. It's my way or the highway. You better do your tap dance or I'm going to reject you and emotionally distance myself or whatever. So this is ingrained in us as children to become a pleaser, and or whatever it is, or to shut down. And yeah. So when you stop that behavior, you're leaving the familiar. That's my family of origin. That's an old pattern that we got used to doing in order to survive. Yeah, thank you. All right, and so so the way that Charlotte Jacobach was talking about this was she's saying that's your core belief. You have this core belief. And if you look at it, it's often running your show. It's often running what you're doing. So it's kind of like, oh, wait, do I have to go and do a live today to prove that I'm a good psychologist, to prove my worth? Or, hey, welcome. Yeah, go ahead, ask your question. Or it's like, I have these skills and I want to make sure to give back an hour of time every week, at a certain day, so that people who don't have the money or don't realize they can avail themselves of this kind of insight can have that available to them, and sometimes there's mixed motives, or sometimes you think you're doing it for one reason and then you're like, wait a second, was I doing it for this other? But don't be so concerned. Just definitely have time at night to, I say at night, Saint Ignatius of Loyola came up with this thing called the examen, where you take 15 minutes out and you ask the Holy Spirit, if you're Christian or whatever faith practice you do, to help you review the day and look at like where you got triggered. And that will help you actually see where your core belief is operating. I don't know the answer to that question. Someone just asked a question about a fire song. Words of fire. Oh, these things are words of fire. uh, I don't know that song, but I know what I was talking about, Words of Fire, was a guy named Callistos Ware, Archbishop, Kalistos Ware. All right, so, okay, so let's go back to this equation because it's so awesome. Go back to zero. She just put zero equals this life of freedom and compassion. And then she said the other formula is your core belief running everything. And then you have a life of confusion and manipulation and suffering. And so, who wants that? Not me. Aw, thank you. Thank you. I'm so glad this is getting to you. All right. So, someone wrote, this is amazing, or you are. It's not me. This is like Einstein just describing the formula. That's how I feel. It's like this, the truth is just so beautiful and so amazing, and it really can enlighten us. Enlighten. You're letting more light in, and you can just become so passionate about life and find your authentic self. And then once you find your authentic self, you're no longer attracted to the narcissist. The narcissist like is just out of your radar because, okay, just think for one moment, because I definitely want to touch on this while we have this time, right? Is that the narcissist, all right, the narcissist is kind of like a replication of our childhood. So if we always felt like we had to please our parents and they kept rejecting us, and then when we did our, got all A's in school or whatever, they turned back and we felt loved for a moment, and then they turned back again because it wasn't this unconditional thing because they didn't know their own worth. They trained us to like feed a narcissist in a way, and not that they're trying to, but um so what happens is once we learn how to stop operating in this way and feeding the narcissist in order to survive. So, okay, so we actually are attracted to a narcissist often when we're in this other category because we're trying to fix an unavailable parent. We internalized an unavailable parent. And so it's kind of like we took in the best and the worst of our mother and father and put it in, and we're like, well, sometimes we were taught you're worth loving and you have these gifts inside of you, and sometimes that's enabled, but we also took in this rejection, and that's what actually can make a narcissist is they took in this core wound of rejection, and we also took in this core wound of rejection, so we feel so bad that they feel so rejected, but we can also take in this false sense of self-aggrandizement where we're so important. But look at, just start examining. This is like the mirror that we want, but we don't want because we're like, oh no, please don't show that to me. Because I'm like, wait a second, why do we keep trying to fix this unavailable parent? We can understand this child is meant to have love. If this is a parent, they're not meant to be stepped on and squashed. But neither are we meant to like learn how to keep doing a tap dance our whole lives, and just live to try to please an unavailable other. Some intermittent reinforcement. That's what this is called. This is why people get so addicted if they go to a casino or something, or they start gambling online or wherever, because they found that intermittent reinforcement is the most addictive when it's not like every 3 times you do this, get all A's at school that your parents turn back around and give you the love. It's random. Like you never know when it's going to be. And it makes you just keep trying to jump higher and all these things, right? So that's called intermittent reinforcement. So understand, so you can identify it to be like, oh, I do not want to be, part of this addiction pattern of intermittent reinforcement, whether it's with, now it works with any kind of addiction. Like sometimes it gives you the high that you're looking for, and sometimes it doesn't, or leaves you really low and with all these repercussions. But people go back because it's intermittent reinforcement and it reminds us of childhood. And so you're worth more than that, all right? You're worth more than any kind of addiction. And being addicted to our false self and being addicted to a narcissist or an avoidant, an unavailable other person, and keep pining after them and making your dreams about this person that's not showing themselves right now available in your real reality, that's a repetition of childhood. So we can understand why it's familiar and why the child wants to, this is how I learned it in school. This is how I describe it. I think I wrote this book. There's the cover of it over there. Hold on. It's out of print, but, oh yeah, here. I wrote it in this one, Unbreakable Bonds, Practicing the Art of Loving and Being Loved. See, that's me. And then this is the more recent book, but I'm not trying to plug the books or anything. I'm just saying 12 Ways to Heal from Trauma, spiritual and psychological insight on this. So, and you could watch the free video on YouTube on 12 Ways to Heal Trauma. That's what this book came from, that one video that I put on here. But what was I saying about that is, oh yeah, as I say that, what we often do unconsciously is we go back to where things broke down and we try to make it happily ever after. And so we're actually obsessed with trying to fix a parent that we internalized, but we're doing this externally by we keep going back to the narcissist and giving them this perpetual food that they want and draining ourselves, abandoning ourselves for the avoidant and keeping ourselves from having secure attachment and all these things, and keeping ourselves from knowing our real selves, our authentic selves in this being place, because we're following this unconscious pattern of trying to be God by fixing this narcissist or just unavailable other, whether they're a narcissist or not. I watched this amazing video today. I already put it on my Twitter, on X, this morning on, it was on the infrastructure of the narcissist. And it just came up on my feed this morning and I was like, blah, it blew my mind. It was so good because it was just talking about how this happens and then this is built on top of it and this is built and this is why it's this giant castle. And you don't have to be intimidated by that. That's just it. I plan to pin it. Let me write a note to pin it underneath this so you can watch those if you want. She has part 1, part 2, and then how to identify a narcissist. And you have to look above what she's saying because she's describing it all spiritually, and I like how she's describing it, but I look at it like, just like if we had 2 Einsteins in here right now, Einstein might say E equals mc squared. Well, someone else could describe that same formula but use different terms and not be describing something different, but be describing the same thing just from a different angle. They say truth is like a many-sided diamond. All right, I have a diamond in my ear, so it's kind of like you're looking at it from different sides, but you are describing the same thing, but not everything is the same. So let me go back to what she was saying. This simple formula, keep going back to 0, is like, this other saint described what she's talking about the same way. Besides St. John of the Cross, I already said, but before St. John of the Cross, I think before was St. Ignatius of Loyola. Now, he said, imagine a scale, the old-fashioned weight scales that they would determine, like, oh, this much barley, it costs this much food, or, they'd have a way to discern things back in the old days when they had just like markets and people would bring stuff and ways to sell it. Well, he said, okay, if you imagine this scale, all right, this helps us move out of our own false self. He says, it's a certain prayer you can ask, but you're saying to God, you're saying, whether I am well known or unknown, whether there are 5 million people, when I did good, oh, wow. Yeah, so this person's sharing about, yes, sometimes, but when you were a baby, sometimes they would pick you up when you smiled or something. So we can still internalize them accepting us, even if they're rejecting later. But yeah, that when our parents are rejecting, it can drive us to want more and more, try to please people. But it's when you go into this place of stop pleasing, it's unfamiliar. It feels like everything's going to fall apart, but it's not. So go to a place where it's safe to practice not following those same patterns, and be really kind to yourself as you practice. Oh, wow. I'm sorry. So, but I'm glad too. I'm glad because you're here now, and guess what this is? Like, I'm all about let's heal the broken hearted, wherever our hearts got broken. Yeah. So it doesn't have to be, it just is what it is. We don't have to define ourselves as any kind of victim from that. Just like, I miscarried my first child, and I don't have to, like, it is a reality, and it was a really painful reality, but I don't have to define my whole life by that experience. And so back to this scale. Okay, so whether there was 5 people in here or 5 million people, Saint Ignatius teaches, and I practice this discipline a lot, right, is that whether I'm well known or unknown, whether I'm well liked, lots of likes, or not liked, whether I'm rich or whether I'm poor, whether I'm in good health or not in good health, whether I have a long life or a short life. He's talking about learning how to do all for the glory of God. Thanks, I was being funny, but for the glory of God. But it's not just, God is not a giant narcissist in the sky. It's not about how can I please this being, and because he's the one that sent Jesus before we did anything to earn being reconciled back with this perfect God that's all about really loving us. So, okay, so let's go back to the 0. When we learn how to go back to let everything be stripped away off of us, and it's like, all right, this is going to be really uncomfortable. I'm not going to please this person. I'm not going to please this person. I'm not going to be a pleaser. I'm not going to just be nice girl and have my old core belief of I'm rejected. I have to make sure that they like me. I'm rejected. When I stop operating that way and learn how to let my real authentic self start emerging and start being, then it helps me wean off even this obsessive desire underneath to try to please the narcissist, the unavailable other, and try to get them to turn back around. Yeah, okay, so this person commented here, I'm not liked, that's okay. Yeah, it reminds me of one of Elliot's songs. I was friends with this musician, and he sings. Okay, so of course a song came. He's like, I'm alone most of the time. That's okay. He says, I don't feel afraid to die, but he's talking about dying to his ego self. Most of the time, da, 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 da. She was here passing by. And anyway, there's an inside joke to that. Not joke, but like we were friends, so I got to talk to him about some of his songs, and I made him this mixtape about longing, this girl longing, like this longing back for union with the Creator is we can think about it. We can pine after an other person and think that's the answer, but they're just a picture of the love that's flowing through them. You're meant to have a direct connection. And really, 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 like, if I could emphasize anything, it's like the Creator of the universe wants to give you that, and God's not like withholding it. We look at God oftentimes. I did my dissertation. I wonder if my dissertation, it might be here. I was looking for it in my house the other day, and I forgot I had stuff here, but I actually spent a whole year studying this and writing my dissertation on how we form our understanding of God through what we internalized. This is what all the research is showing, what we internalized from our parents. So if our parents were distant and rejecting, go figure, sometimes we project that onto God. He must be a he, but no, God is above he and she. There's a psalm that shows that, Psalm 27:10. I love it because it says, when your father and mother forsake you, the I am that I am, the Lord, capital Lord. That means above the duality, the absolute infinite love beingness picks you up, right? Will pick you up. And so I have it on my cup of water that I always bring with myself. Be mine. And he's not trying to own me. Like, that's not. Yeah, well, okay, so sometimes we can take some things off of this person here interacting with us. Sometimes we can take our stuff off of our page so that people stop attacking us. Sometimes it's meant to be there because we get to grow past the attacks. You know, I don't mean provoke people to attack us. I mean, the more we learn, sometimes we learn from the valleys, right? There's a girl that sings this song. I love it. It's like, down in the valley's so low. Like, and she's like, I need a savior. Hey, I just need a friend, you know, like, it's really good. But she says more than that, but I'm just gonna keep it sort of PG here. But yeah, it's important. Your block game is really important. It's not a game. Okay, so let's go back to this. 0 equals this life of freedom and compassion. Just think, if we go back to the image I was teaching at the very beginning that Dr. Maurice Nicoll studied from so much meditation and hard work and quieting his mind and knowing his real self. Imagine, again, if you are this chick and you're meant to break out of this egg and be your real essence self, your real self. The only way that can happen is if you divest yourself of this personality. If you let that outer self die so that your inner self can emerge. Or what C.S. Lewis says is, like, when you become a Christian, you're asking God to, Christ to be Lord of your life, but you're asking God to fill you with the Holy Spirit and bring you through this refining fire. And he says what happens is, it's not like you're a regular horse and God's teaching you how to fly higher. You're turning into a winged creature. He's turning you into a winged creature. And so that's something completely different. And if you want to know the Greek word for it, it's called theosis. This ancient saint from like the 300s, so 260 years, 70 years closer to when Christ died than all of us way out here, right? He, in the 300s, Saint Athanasius said, and it's in the scriptures too, you can look, it's like God became man so that man could become God. You are not the God, but he's transforming you. God is beyond he and she, so transforming you into something so beautiful beyond your understanding. But you're not going to understand it if you keep chasing your false self and chasing the narcissist. Yes, that she said too, that's why baptism is a big thing, right? Because baptism is an outer sacred symbol of an inner transformation. You're going in the water, you are letting your old self wash away, and you're coming up. And it says, I have been crucified with Christ, and it is no longer I who live, but Christ lives in me. In the life which I now live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God who loves me and delivered himself up for me. You are being renewed into something higher. Like, you have, they say this is the deposit. Yes, born again, but you're being born into your real authentic self if you can understand these things. Now, I don't want to just sound so religious that people that don't understand these words don't understand the transformation that gets to take place. Like, when Jesus was here, he's the God man that came into this myth. The myth became real. He's teaching you real things. Like, this is a real transformation that's meant to take place in you. But and so if you're meant to be changed into this winged creature, but you're spending all this time trying to build up a false personality, it's kind of like the example I used at the beginning. or like an acorn. You're just dressing up an acorn or dressing up an egg instead of the acorn. That Jesus said the seed has to go in the ground, the outer shell gets let off so that this giant tree can be born, so that who you really are can be born out of that, your authentic self. And the more you get in your authentic self, the less you're attracted to any kind of narcissist. You get unhooked. When I think Peter or someone was saying something, St. Peter to Jesus, Jesus said, he has nothing on me. This is how the enemy couldn't get him hooked anymore, because, and so I know another teacher. All right, can you hear me? Welcome. Put a 1 in the chat if you can hear me now. Usually it comes back. Okay, good. All right. I put it on do not disturb. Good. Okay, we'll wrap up. All right, because I wanted it. Okay, so all right. So, so you guys have the advantage of just fast forwarding up to this point. Hopefully you did. So, all right, put a one in the chat if you can hear me now. Okay, it's working. Okay, good. So you might have to catch up to actually where I am now, but I'll just keep talking. Hopefully it's still talking now. So I got a phone call. That was my son, and I love him so much. And he called twice in case I had my phone on do not disturb or something. But anyway, so we're meant to we're meant to hatch out of that egg. That's what I was saying is in this book called Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis. He says that, the baby might be really comfortable in the stomach, right? And in the womb, and it's all perfect and all the right food is coming and all this stuff, and it doesn't want to be born, let's say, but it needs to be born. That's the next stage in the process for it to become this live, beautiful human being on this planet with gifts inside of you and made in the image and likeness of God. And Ephesians 2:10, it says you are God's poema. You are a poem. You are a living song of the creator. They translate as masterpiece. In the Greek, it's poema. So it can be this epic poem or masterpiece or master painting, like I have some Van Goghs over there. I love Van Gogh. So you are that. But in order for that to happen, you got to get it out of your mom's stomach. All right. Now, yes, you are God's creation. But the problem is a lot of us learned from this desperation in childhood from our parents' intermittent reinforcement how to be this pleaser, and so we keep trying to please them, and we turn into this pleaser, and that's our whole personality, and it's like a core belief. I was talking about this woman, Charlotte Jacobek was talking about how we do that, how we can get so lost in being driven by that core belief that we think we're living a conscious life, but we are not, where we're living in order to try to feed our inauthentic false self that we got rewarded for feeding and stayed alive in childhood to feed that false self. And so what I was saying in this book too is like she's talking about the work is about learning how to be conscious and learning how to see. And I liked one example. Let's use one example that she says. Okay, so this is so awesome. That's Rebecca Nottingham, but she says, if you just imagine this guy and it's a Saturday, he's planning on going on a fishing trip, right? And his alarm goes off at like 4:30 in the morning, and he's like, I'm in this deep sleep. Why is my alarm going off? And he's all irritated. All right. And then he remembers, I'm going fishing today. And then he's all happy. And then he gets in the shower and he gets shampoo in his eyes, and he's all irritated again. And then, but then he remembers he's going fishing, and so he gets all happy again. And then he gets out and he wants to put on his favorite fishing shirt that his wife had said she would wash, but somehow it didn't get washed. Like, no judgment. But then he's all mad at her and, thinking about how he's going to like chastise her and like, cut her down. And then he smells coffee in the kitchen, and he goes down, and she woke up early to make him coffee and make him a big breakfast before he goes to his fishing day. And he's like, what was I thinking? He's so appreciative of his wife. And he's like, what, why was I going to get so mad at her? I have my second best fishing shirt on. And then the dog jumps up and he spills some coffee on his fishing shirt. So just look at how most people, like 99% of people, think that they're living an awake, conscious life, but really, they're being driven by all these external bodily things that are happening to them, and they don't have this steady, deep, developed, authentic character, like your real self that's there. You're just going up and down, and she calls that a sleeping life. It's another kind of life where it's just like when you're dreaming, you're asleep, but in the dream, it seems like you're awake. Well, this is a waking life. I can't remember what they call it, but it's another kind of life where you think you're actually not living in this awake state. And so that's why, oh no, I hope it didn't cut everyone out. it went down to 0, and I know that it shut off the live. So anyway, hopefully I'll describe this and wrap this up, is that, all right, put 1 in the chat if you can hear me, or put 2 in the chat if you can hear me now. Then it's a different number, so I know that you can hear me right now, if you will, because it just went back down to 0, and I want to make sure that this live stream is still going. I'd like to make sure that if I can. Anyway, all right, when you get to this part, put 2. Okay, so that I know that this is, because last time it cut off my live stream and I didn't get to have all of it for everybody else. So we'll see. We'll just trust. Hopefully it's working. All right. So, so that's, well, welcome back. Oh no. Yeah, I'll do that if it's not working for you right now. Someone just said, if you have time, make a video of what you were going to say to us. It is working. Put 2 if you can hear me now, right now. So I know that we're back in the present moment, because that's awesome. Because then it will have recorded, I hope, everything I just said. Oh, right. Oh, yay, 2, thanks. I love 2s. And there's, okay. All right, thank you. Perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. That's really helpful. All right, so I gave this example of the guy that's going on the fishing internet. And so, yeah, because it just kicked you guys out, and then who knows what, anyway, let's, hopefully it all gets to stay together. And then I'll wrap this up is, and so he thinks he's completely awake. And that's why I did the whole teaching. I did a whole teaching on a Beatles song the other day called I'm Only Sleeping. And I was hinting at this the whole time, not because I was just trying to hint, but it was like, you can think you're awake and conscious in this life, but actually, thank you. Your voice matters as well. So you can think that you are awake, but you're actually just walking in reaction to all of these external stimuli. And so what I was saying earlier about Jesus said, this world, the enemy of this world has nothing on me. He's got nothing on me to hook me in. They're called flesh hooks or something. Nothing to pull me in. And so if you think of this esoterically and really deeply, is like Jesus, it says Jesus always did the will of his Father. All right. Leia, yeah. Our dog name is Princess Leia. Yeah, she wanted to come. She always wants to come, but yesterday she wanted to come with me. So like, if you think of the will of the Father is like up here, even though the kingdom of heaven is within us, so that's this love thing. But Jesus always yielded to this will, and it applied to his thoughts and emotions and physical body. So it's kind of like it's coming from this place. All right. All of us, we often operate, they call it mechanically, until you learn otherwise. Yeah, like Star Wars. We operate mechanically, like what I was just describing the guy. He's going to go fishing. He's mad that he got woken up in the middle of his deep, beautiful dream. And then he remembers he's going fishing. He's unhappy. He's happy. He's unhappy. He's happy. He's like, it just keeps going like that. And then that informs his thoughts and emotions, and it develops his personality style. And then, he could sabotage this beautiful relationship with his wife because he just is reacting to what's happening externally instead of having your anchor in something that's eternal. Remember when it says we are just ambassadors here. This isn't our true home. We are representatives representing something from a higher place. That's what we're bringing here. We're bringing a higher reality into this reality. That's what we're meant to be doing. And so the more you get back to this 0 thing, the 0 of whether I'm well liked or not liked, that's not why I want to make these decisions. Whether I'm well known or not well known, that's not where I want to make my decisions from. Whether I'm pleasing these other people, what are your inspirations of ideas? All right, someone just asked, what are your inspirations of ideas? If you go back to the beginning of this, I named a bunch of inspirations, like this guy named Dr. Maurice Nicole, who learned also from a guy named Uspensky, who, I mean, but Jesus Christ shows all of this. Jesus is always talking on like 1,000 different levels of conscious reality. He shows us not only how to be reconciled to a perfect God, but how to live from this higher plane, how to live this way of living. Um, and so you die to your old false self, and then you are like, God will take you through this refining fire. And it's just like, if you want to see it in a poem form, I wrote a book called The Hound of Heaven, how all of these things he used to be hooked into, and then God helped remove them from his life. And then he saw, oh, you took all of that away just so I could have it in an authentic way. Like once you get to your authentic self, then it just feels so amazing, because you're just not drawn to the narcissist anymore. You don't need anything from them. And see how we're so drawn to them? Let me wrap this up. We're so drawn to them before because we felt so bad for their rejection, because we experienced the same type of rejection. We keep trying to heal like a black hole rejected feeling. Well, they got to work that out with God. That's a job for Jesus. Like they got to, we can't be God. Then they're trying to play gods in our life, but we're trying to play God in their life, trying to fill up what's missing so that they can be this good parent that we always wanted. Well, just learn how to stop abandoning yourself and be this good parent. God will teach you how to be a good parent to yourself. You are always worth a good parent, worth that. Both, two kinds of parents. Be the divine masculine and the divine feminine. Be this love that you wish to see in this world, all right? Instead of looking for it externally, God will teach you how he is, because he's be mine. He's always wanting to give us love before we did anything. And then you will learn by being quiet. You have to learn how to practice not operating in your mechanical self and do the work, right? You don't have to read this book, but it's called The Work. And I wrote down, look at what I wrote down. Let's see on the previous page. Look, right? I don't mind sharing this part from, it's like, here's the work. It's learn to practice exercising self-control against your imagination, lying to yourself, justifying pride, vanity, fear, self-complacency, spiritual laziness, rebellion from our flesh. Yes, we can definitely, God is perfect love. He's always teaching us how to have the ruthless boundaries, like not in an evil or cruel way. I have my coffee cup in my car. It says the lid today has different messages, but this one said kindness matters. You know, it says to be tenderhearted with one another, but that doesn't mean don't have boundaries, of course. Like, you know, that it was either Jesus or John the Baptist said, you guys are a brood of vipers. Well,